It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
No other words can best describe the year 1969. As scientists at NASA and at the Soviet space program raced to explore the solar system, sending people to the moon, sending probes to Venus, the building blocks of today's technology were being put together, and with them, a few video games as well. Not many though. We were still in the age before they were seen as something for everyone, as something worthwhile to spend your time creating. After all, only a few people had access to computers, and to be able to use one in the first place, you needed a high degree of technical knowledge, but mainly, you needed access, which is why people that had access to such computers and weren't supervised constantly made things like Lunar Landing Game. Created by a high school student named Jim Storer, it was based on the idea that permeated the culture in that year, the moon landing. Since it was made on a PDP-8 with limited access, there wasn't much to it in the way of graphics. It was all text-based. A running version of the original does not appear to exist anymore, although the source code is still around, as it was submitted to a newsletter run by the Digital Electronic Corporation for its users, DEC being of course the company that created the PDP computers as well as the focal programming language on which 1968's Hammurabi was also made. Lunar Lander was a data-driven representation of the moon landing where players had to control the thrust while keeping an eye on fuel position and hopefully not crashing. It was a turn-based affair that inspired a lot of people in the coming years to create new versions of it, improved ones with graphics, leading to a craze in the arcades to which we will get to in a few weeks. And it wasn't the only space game to be made in that year, for somewhere at Bell Labs a man named Ken Thompson was working on a GE635 computer, putting together a game named Space Travel. It was intended as a simulator where you would fly your ship in a 2D representation of the solar system with gravity affecting your ship. Regrettably, the only visual element left from the game is this picture. But Ken Thompson was really passionate about his creation and attempted to port it to whatever systems were available to him at Bell Labs. He wanted to port it to the PDP-10, but Bell Labs would not pay over $100,000 then on that machine, since it wasn't vital, so he tried to put it on a PDP-7, but it was slow, very slow, so he tried to circumvent much of the built-in attributes of the machine by building his own tools, such as his own file system based on some of the ideas that co-workers of him were tinkering with. Co-workers like Dennis Ritchie, whom you may know as the man that made the C programming language, plus one other thing. And by the time the new version of Space Travel was finished, the tools he built became sort of an operating system that was widely used by people working in that group at Bell Labs. Although Space Travel didn't really go anywhere as a game and was almost forgotten, though its spirit does live on in everything from Elite to Kerbal Space Program, its technology became a fundamental part of the Unix operating system, the OS that truly started everything, and was engineered in part by Dennis Ritchie. So that's why I would say that Space Travel is the game to best describe this year. Although the Lunar Lander game would best fit what people in 1969 were talking about and were excited about, that's not what the year was truly about. It was about one small step being made by a single person or by a small group of people that would bring about a giant leap for the entirety of the human race. And Space Travel was just that, though as a game it is lost to time, it lives on in Unix. The same can be said about a small message sent from the University of California, Los Angeles to the Stanford Research Institute. The message was simply LOW, 2 letters. But the method by which it was sent was an important part. It was sent through ARPANET. It was the first message to be sent through the predecessor of what we now call the internet. As for why it was just low, that's because the system crashed before login could be spelled out. And although it is a bit contested and was more of a military secret for some time, 1969 was also the year of the first microprocessor, the MP944 digital processor built by Steve Geller and Ray Holt, which was used in the F-14 Tomcat's controlled system. People outside the military still had some time to wait before they could have access to such a thing themselves, but not too long. So end the 60s, with a walk on the moon, a really big concert in a place named Woodstock, the genesis of the internet, and a few video games that in just a couple of years would make a lot of people happy and a lot of money. Next week, we begin the 70s, when the games industry truly started, and games were never the same again.